Okay, welcome everybody. Let's see if this works now. I apologize for that little technical delay there. I do have a tendency to have those. So I am going to repeat just a little bit of stuff because it is important. I like to start out all my videos with this to make sure that people who are new see it, especially if they're watching on the replay. So if I start blathering on about things that you already know or you've already heard tonight, bear with me, it'll only take me a minute to say them, okay? Let's see here if I am showing up. Oh, it does look like I am showing up finally. So, let's see here. Oh, it does look like I am showing up finally. Okay, let's mute it on my end so that you only have to listen to one of me. And it looks like we've got a few people who have rejoined us here, so that's awesome. Let's see here. John's here from Maine. Hey, John, welcome. Let's see. Okay. So the part that I want to repeat to make sure new people know. I like it when you guys participate in the conversation because we're kind of building a little community here and I am loving that. So I encourage you to participate in the conversation, whether you're talking to one another, whether you're asking me a question or offering me a suggestion, or even if you don't feel like talking all that much, just say hi and tell me where you're from. I love to hear where people are from. As an incentive to get people to participate, I do this every week, and everybody who participates, their name goes into a drawing that I award the following week in my next week's live. So even if you're just watching this on a replay, you still get to be included in this. You're not going to get left out. So make sure that you say hello, whether you're watching the replay on Facebook or YouTube. I pull the names from both sources. So I would love to hear from you and know that you have joined our little community. So exciting news. What is it? Today is the 12th of April. We're halfway through April almost. And in just a few weeks, the new annual Stampin' Up! Catalog is coming out. And you guys probably know that already because I've already talked about it. But I got mine in the mail yesterday. And unfortunately, I can't show you the insides of it yet, but I can show you the cover. And I can tell you there are all sorts of wonderful things inside of it. I am really excited about this one because I will be honest and tell you that the last few catalogs that we've come out with, they've all had some things in there that I really, really liked. But as a whole, the catalogs were just kind of meh to me. Just not a ton of stuff that called to me, which is, you know, probably safer for my checkbook anyway. This catalog, yeah, this one's going to be expensive. This is probably my favorite catalog in a really long time. Lots of fun stuff in it. I love the florals. Stampin' Up! Does a great job with florals, but I personally tend to lean toward kind of the cute stuff. And there are a lot of really cute stamp sets in this annual catalog. And for those of you who have seen it already, tell me what you think. You know, that's one of the advantages to being a demonstrator is we get our catalogs a month before they come out. We get to see it early. And we actually get a list of items that are in the catalog that we have the privilege of ordering a month before they're even available for sale. So we can start doing samples and showing you projects and things like that. So if that's something that appeals to you, being in on the ground level there, definitely talk to me about joining Stampin' Up! We have so many different minded demonstrators. And when I say that, what I mean is, you know, we have some that are interested in building a business and they do what I do and they do the videos and they do classes and things like that. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we have a lot of demonstrators, and I would almost guess it's probably most of the demonstrators, though I don't have any facts to back that up, who are happy stampers. And that just means, you know, they get all the privileges of every other demonstrator with the company. They still get the product discount, they get everything else, but they have chosen not to pursue it as a business. They just want the discount on the products. And you know what? Stampin' Up! Supports that. And they encourage anybody who wants to join for whatever their reason is. Sometimes people join it because, you know, our kit is such a good deal. It's only $99 and you get $125 worth of products of your choice. Plus you get a paper pumpkin kit, plus you get free shipping on your kit. Plus right out of the gates, you get a discount on your products. And so there are a lot of people who buy the kit to just kind of see what they think and then decide, nah, not for me. And they just go back to being a customer. And you know what? That is perfectly okay to do. So if you're thinking about it, talk to me, or you can go to my website at heathersides.stampinup.net, where you can get more information and you can sign up right there online and pick out the products you want, all that good stuff. But if you have questions, if you want to talk about it, definitely let me know. You can email me at stamphappenings@gmail.com, or you can send me a message here on Facebook, whatever's easiest for you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So now, with that in mind, I'm going to turn this camera around. I'm just going to show you the beautiful cover of this amazing new catalog. Kind of wet your whistle a little bit. We're going to do our drawing for everybody who participated in last week's conversation. And then we're going to get going on some fun cards I've got in store for you, okay? How's that sound? All right, hang on just a second. Here we go. I'm going to have to now move it back. Sorry, I don't want to make anybody's motions, all of the mistakes out of the way right now, right? And put this little kit together. I'm really liking putting the kits together for you guys as prizes, and they seem to be things that you guys are liking also. Mary says she used to be a demonstrator, but for various reasons quit. You know what, Mary? You can always come back at any time if you decide that it's right for you to do so. And that's one of the great things about it. I've mentioned this before. When my kids were really little, this was, you know, about 17 years ago, I was a demonstrator for about 5 years. I loved it. I had very good success with it. It was something I really enjoyed. However, my kids reached an age where they got into school and they started getting involved in different activities, and, you know, life evolves. And I just could not continue to provide the level of customer service that I wanted to be able to provide, because I knew I would want it to be a business. So, which is not for everybody. So fast forward now, 15, 17 years, whatever, my kids are all out of the house. I really wanted to get back into some sort of a creative outlet and decided to do this. So you just never know what's going to happen down the road where you might find that you're interested again. So I'm glad that you're joining us now, though. I'm glad to see that you've still got your creative outlet, whether you're a demonstrator or not. So that's awesome. Okay, so this kit, like I said, we've got the beautiful designer series paper, the gems, the ribbon, and this week's winner is Teresa Leeper. Congratulations, Teresa. I do not have your mailing address. So if you would please send me an email at stamphappenings@gmail.com, or just send me a private message here on Facebook, then I can go ahead and get this out in the mail to you. So congratulations, Teresa. Also, for those of you who are signed up for my kaleidoscope kit class, I did check kind of to see what's going on. It looks like most of you have your kaleidoscope kits already. Okay, my phone's crooked. You know that's going to kill me. I see that most of you have your kits, and all but 2 of you have received the extra packet that I sent out in the mail. Ironically, the 2 people that haven't gotten theirs are also demonstrators. I don't know why they haven't gotten them yet. I'm keeping an eye on it, but fingers crossed you'll get it in the next couple days. Everybody else has gotten theirs. Hey, Kathy, welcome. So anyway, look at this beautiful catalog, you guys. Isn't this amazing? I just love the colors. The samples in this one are just delightful. I wish I could open it and show you guys, because there's just some stuff I'm so excited about. but I will in due time. If you want a sneak peek at it, become a demonstrator and you can get it early. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to set it aside. We're going to get going on our cards. Okay, our first card tonight, this one uses the Elephant Parade stamp set with the coordinating elephant dies. I use a few other dies as well. And, you know, a lot of times the extra dies that I use, you know, you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, that would be too expensive. I'd have to order $7,000 worth of products to make that one card. Do keep in mind, I like to mix and match all the time, and I do. But you don't have to do that, or you don't have to use the one that that I personally have used. For example, there's a card later on here where I wanted a little flower, and the set I was using didn't have a flower, so I pulled out another set. You could use any set in your collection that had a little flower, right? So do remember that you don't have to do it exactly the way I do. However, if you want to, you can go to heathersides.stampinup.net and you can order those things, and I would love to earn your business. Okay, that being said, I'm also using my layering circles dies. You know I love these. I use them all the time. Hey Kathy, hey Teresa. I just got mine, Kathy, yesterday, and I was so excited to finally get it because I did look at it online, but just kind of quickly. I'm one of those girls who I have to have the hard copy catalog in my hands to really go through it. So I'm glad I finally got it. I'm also using tailor-made tags. So the elephant dies, layering circles, and tailor-made tags. And let me show you the card we're going to make. Let me put this stuff all away. And here's the card. The card uses the Hues of Happiness designer series paper. This is such fun paper. I really like it. I'm sad to see it going. But you know, every year Stampin' Up! Retires all the designer series paper from the year before in order to bring in all sorts of new and wonderful designer series papers. So while I'm sad to see some old friends go, I'm excited to see some new friends coming in. So anyway, here's the card we're going to make. This elephant, I mean, they're just such darn cute elephants. I love them. So this is what we're going to make. Let's go ahead and get started. We'll do our envelope first. You guys, I also want to show you something. Figure out where I put it. Hang on. Okay. You know, I always decorate my envelope flaps, right? Sometimes I stamp them. Sometimes I put paper on like this, like we're about to. I want to show you something. I got a card in the mail today from Beth Casaro. She was one of my prize winners a few weeks ago. And she sent me a really beautiful little thank you card. Isn't this card adorable? She made it with the kit that she won. And she sent me a really beautiful message that made me feel so good. So first I want to say thank you, Beth. I just really needed to hear that message, and that made me feel so good. But I want to show you what she did with her envelope, because, you know, it never crossed my mind to do it, and it's so cute the way she did it. I'm going to do some like this too. She did not put the designer series paper on the entire flap. She was so cute. She says, I'm working my way up to using a full piece to cover it. Cover the flap, but I tend to be too frugal. Is that adorable? But look, she just did a strip like that. And isn't that cool looking? You know, I've had times where, you know, this strip is 2.5 inches wide, and I've had times that the strip's only 2 inches or whatever, and I'm like, oh, not big enough, can't do the strip, can't do it that way. Well, I could, you know, even if I only have 1 inch or something, I could do exactly what Beth did here. So I wanted to show you guys this idea so that you know, if all you have is scraps, use your scraps that way. So I'd already made the cards though made today's samples when I saw that. So I'm not doing any this week, but I can tell you, you're going to see some like that in the future. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a little glue on the envelope. As I said, the strip that I use of designer series paper is 2.5 inches by 6 inches. That gives me just a little bit extra in every direction so that I know it's going to fit properly and I'm not having to stress out about getting it on there exactly perfect. So now if you pick it up, that makes a difference. I'm just going to lay it on here. I'm going to make sure that the top does match up evenly with the top of my envelope. That part's important. And then make sure that I kind of rub it all the way so the glue goes all the way to the edges. Make sure you don't use too much glue because you don't want it squirting out over the edge of the flaps and then making a mess. But you know what? If it does, you just take your handy dandy little adhesive eraser that you can just get on Amazon for a couple bucks. And when the glue has dried, you just erase it right off. It's that simple. Okay, so trimming this off. There we go. And well, that side's just a little bit off, so I'm just going to trim a little bit more. Usually I just let it go, but this one was kind of a funny shape when it was done. Okay, let's see. There we go. Just wanted to round it a little bit more. That's better. And then I'm going to just set it aside while we work on the card itself. And the card base is a standard card base. It's 8.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches tall. It's scored in the middle at 4 1/4. And I call that the standard card base because that is, you know, the most common card that you see. And I try to do a little bit different here and there and everywhere. But for the most part, this is the one I usually come back to. So now let's go ahead and do the inside of the card. And I've got a piece here of basic white, and I'm going to put that on the inside, but I also have a couple little strips that we're going to put along the bottom. So this piece of basic white is 5 1/4 by 4. Then I have this piece here. It's actually 3 7/8 by 1/2 inch. So this piece is 1/8 of an inch bigger. So it is 4 inches wide, and then it is 5/8. Let me do that again. 4 inches long, and then 5/8 of an inch wide right there. So let's go ahead and stick these guys together. Then we'll stick them to the inside of the card. A little bit of glue. I like to use my liquid glue for this so that I have a little bit of wiggle room before that glue really sets, so that I can make sure to get the piece aligned exactly like I want it and where I want it. And now let's put it on the card, or on the piece of basic white. I've got it lined up here. Sometimes I like to leave just a little bit of a white edge along the bottom. Sometimes I line it up right along the bottom of the card, and totally up to you what you like best. Sometimes it's just, you know, whatever mood I'm in, what strikes me. Hey, Marcia, welcome. Okay, so what part of Texas are you in, Marcia? I've probably asked you that before, but you know, I have no memory. No memory. Let's go ahead and glue this to the inside. Okay, there we go. That part is done. Now let's work on the front of the card. So I've got a piece of Night of Navy. It's 5 1/4 by 4. That's the same size as the white piece on the inside. And then I have this piece of Designer Series paper that's 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. So it's just 1/8 of an inch smaller in every direction. So let's go ahead and put that together. And we can go ahead and put it onto our card as well. That way it's kind of out of the way. So you line it up. You guys have seen this before. I like to have, a lot of times I like to use just a very tiny margin like this. It gives a little bit of a pop finished look to have the margin without being too distracting. Okay. And I do like to use my snail adhesive for putting these big pieces on. I use the Snail Plus. We have both Snail and Snail Plus. Snail Plus is a little bit more expensive, but it is a stronger adhesive. So I choose to go with that. Okay, now let's get started on the rest of our fun here. Let's see, we've got, trying to decide what I want to do first. let's go ahead and do this part. So from this circle, I also have my blending brush. We have two sizes of blending brushes now. This is our full-size one, and then we have some that are mini. They're just a little bit narrower for those smaller places. And you don't really need one for every color. I kind of go by the rule of thumb of one for each color-ish. So like I have one that I use for all my blues, one for my purples, one for my greens, you know, so it just, I don't need one for every single color. So now I'm getting ink on my brush, right? And then tap off just a little bit so I don't end up with a splotchy spot, which even if I did have a little splotchy spot there in the center, it's going to get covered up anyway. And I'm not necessarily coloring the whole thing. I'm just kind of making a little bit of a color cloud, maybe you could call it, that's going to be behind our cutie little elephant. Then I'm going to get any extra ink off my brush, just because when I put the brush back in my little basket that I keep everything in, I don't want it getting ink everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside for the moment. And now let's do some stamping. First, I'm going to take my black Memento ink and my little elephant stamp. I also want my little butterfly stamp, and I want my one that says Friends Forever. So start with the black. We're going to do our elephant, and I just have a scrap piece of white here because we're going to use the die cuts to cut him out. So I didn't need, you know, like a regular full-size piece or anything. Okay, so I'm going to clean that off. And then I'm going to do 3 butterflies. Okay. And then I'm actually going to use my Night of Navy ink to do my sentiment. Open that up, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment on this cutie little tag. Sentiment says Friends Forever. My back door is open. You guys who've been watching a while know I like, if the weather's nice, I like to leave my back door open so that my dog can kind of come and go in and out if she so chooses. So anyway, my door is open, and my neighbor is cooking something that smells really, really wonderful. I wonder how they'd feel about me just showing up on their doorstep and inviting myself over for dinner. What do you think? Okay, so I stamped my sentiment there. The other thing I did that I want to show you, I did this ahead of time. I did it last night, actually. I had some gray baker's twine from our baker's twine essential pack. It comes with like 5 different colors, and it comes with gray, white, black, crumb cake, and then just kind of a natural color. And I wanted blue, and so you can see it's already still getting some on my fingers here. Which is why I did it last night, to give it a little more time to dry. I'm going to try something. Hang on just a second. Now that it's had some time to dry, I wonder, see how it's picking up some of the ink by doing this? But I wonder if that helps so I don't get ink all over my fingers when I go to tie the bow to use it later. Anyway, my point of showing you this now is to let you know that if you use our Stampin' Blends, they're alcohol markers. They dry really fast, especially when you're using other ribbon. But I have found that on our twine, it doesn't dry as quickly. I don't know why that is. I don't know. So the more time you can give it to dry, the better. And I am also noticing that by doing this to get the extra off, it was pretty stiff before I did this, and it did make it so it's not quite so stiff. So 2 tips for you there. 1, do it first, color it first, and then before you use it after it's dried, take like a napkin or a Kleenex or something and do that. It just gets the stiffness out of it. Okay, moving on. Now we're going to color, and I have tons of colors here because because we're doing some coloring tonight on a couple different cards. So let's see, I want to make sure I get everything that we're going to need. As you can see, I'm pulling out lots of markers. Okay, I think I have everything. So first, let's go ahead and do our butterflies, and I'm going to use my dark Daffodil Delight, and I'm just coloring in the little spots on the butterfly. And I do seem to be going out of their lines a little bit. I'm not super worried about it. It's so small, no one's going to really notice. Okay. And then I'm going to take my, this one is the dark gray granite. And I'm doing their little bodies. And then I've got my light melon mambo. And I'm just coloring the bodies. Now you know that with our Stampin' Blends, you can do some pretty amazing shading. The markers kind of do it for you, but this is so small, there's no room for shading, so I'm not worried about that at all. Whoops, I just colored over one of the little yellow spots. Oh well. Pick and choose your battles, right? Okay. Okay, so my butterflies, oh, my butterflies are not done. Only 2/3 of my butterflies are done. Oops, I did it again. I went over another spot. Okay, so my butterflies are done. Now let's go ahead and do the elephant. Oops, I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to do my elephant. And what I'm doing for the elephant ears, let's start with the ears. I am taking my light Flirty Flamingo, and I'm just going to go right around the outer edge of the ears, like so. And then I'm taking my dark Petal Pink, and I'm blending them. The Petal Pink gives us a little bit more of a, almost a really super light peachy color, whereas the Flirty Flamingo is more of a pink. But I found that if I just used one color, it was either too orange or too pink. But if I blend it, that having that pink on the outer edge kind of pinked up the rest of the ears as well without making it too much. See? Okay, now I'm going to take my, that's the dark smoky slate. I want my light basic black. And I'm going to do his little tail there. I'm going to do his toes. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some coloring on him. Now the first thing that I'm going to do, actually, let's go ahead and start with the dark smoky slate. And I'm just going around the edge here. And I'll get his ears. I'm going kind of slowly on this part because it's just so small and I'm trying to stay in the lines. Okay, now if I go all the way around just these outer edges, right? And the little shading marks that Stampin' Up! Has already given us. Okay, and then what I like to do is, you know, I want to create a little bit of a shade look. So I'm just kind of doing part of his little face and part of his little body. And then I wanted that gray to have a little bit of a blue to it to pull out the blue on the card. Plus, I think it gives us a little bit softer gray. So I'm coloring over this just like so. Nothing super fancy or precise. I'm just adding a little color. And I'm going over that gray that we already did. Okay, now I'm going to take my light smoky slate and I'm going to color it in a little bit. And this is where I'm going to start doing my blending. It's going to go over that blue so that it's not quite so blue. And if you get done and you're like, oh, that's still a little bluer than I'd like, then a great time, let it soak in a little bit, let your colors kind of absorb into the paper. And then a great time to go back is once it's dried, which, as I mentioned earlier with the alcohol markers, it doesn't take long. But then you can add more color. You can layer that color on. But when you're layering colors, you do want to give it just a little bit of time to absorb. So now we have that. Now I'm going to take my my light basic, or my light, basic black. And I just want to go over some of these shade marks really quick. And I did not intend to use my brush tip, but that's okay. Okay, and then just right along the edge right there, and right along the edge right here. Now I'm going to go back with my light smoky slate again. I think this time I'm going to use the other tip just because I can really get in there and blend those areas that need the blending. I'm going to go over these areas that I added the light black just so that it's not quite so stark. I want it to look more like just a little definition. Okay, and if it's too dark, you can use your color lifter to lighten that color a little bit, or you can add a little more blue. Let me grab my color lifter. It's just a little darker than I like right over here. There we go. I'm going to add some color back in there, but this at least pulls some of that color out. So pulled some of that darker color out, so it's not quite as dark. I accidentally went over his eyeball, so it looks like he has a black eye. I'm going to add a little bit of the blue back in there. So our poor little elephant has a black eye. Poor little guy. And I wonder if I can pull some of that color off his eyeball. That helps a little, I guess. And then I'm just layering some color because you can kind of see where I pulled color out now, and I want it to blend a little bit better. I don't normally fuss with it this much. I just kind of seem to be on a fussing roll right now, I guess. Okay, we're going to leave them just like that. Okay, looks like I'm bleeding. I got a little too close to the edge. I'm bleeding a little bit there. But we're going to leave them as is for now. Put my markers away. and I'm going to get out my cutting and embossing machine. So give me just a moment. Mary likes the idea of adding the blue first to the gray. That's something I discovered a little while ago that I found a lot of times with my grays, because our grays are more of a black gray than they are a bluish gray. And a lot of times I like the softness of a bluish gray. Yeah, he looks pretty sad, doesn't he? Okay, so it wasn't the best coloring job I've ever done. I'm okay with that. Okay, I'm going to cut this down just so that I know it'll go through my... Oh, it might have gone through my cutter anyway, but this way we know for sure. And, oh, one thing I forgot to do. Get out my old Post-it tape and get our dies. Woo! I'm trying to knock stuff over now. So the first die is this one right here. And I like to line them up and then tape them in place so that they don't wiggle around when I move them or, you know, whatever. So let's see. I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and tape that down. And then get some more for our little butterflies, which are... The set comes with 2 butterflies, which is kind of nice, actually. Okay, and now let's get that other one lined up there. Guess I didn't need 2 because I'm going to be able to use the same piece of tape on this one, I think. I have a hard time lining up these tiny ones just because my fingers wiggle. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and feed this through the embossing machine. I really love our embossing machines. We have, this one's our mini one, and then we also have a full-size one. Most of our dies do fit through the mini one, but we do have a few that need the bigger machine. But if you want to just kind of get started with something a little less expensive, the mini one will still do most everything you want it to do. Okay, so take those pieces off there. Oops, I closed up my machine, but we still have one more butterfly to do, don't we? Oh, I did not cut my elephant out very well either. Look at him. I kind of got off center a little bit. Okay, so we've got our little butterflies, but we do have one more butterfly to do. So I'm going to put that one back on there and my little piece of tape where we do this little butterfly. Okay. Oh, I guess I need to open the other side if I want it to feed through, right? Okay. Now we can close it back up. Put away my little elephant die. Put away that tiny little butterfly before it gets lost. Look at this tiny little guy. Okay, so put these away. I'm going to put the machine away. Can't remember. I think we might need it later. But now we're ready to start piecing this together. Oh, you know what? I did give myself a little scrap for my elephant. That's pretty funny. I'll just set that aside for later use because I'll use it. The other thing I had is with our tag set. Let me show you with the tailor-made tags. It comes with these little, I can't remember what they're called, but you put them on a tag, you know, for where the hole is because it just kind of reinforces it a little. And it cuts out 4 of them. And they're tiny, so I used one on the card last night, and then I put all 3 of the remaining ones in the bag, you know, in case I lost 1 or 2. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit of glue around the hole. I probably should have done this before I stamped it, just to make sure that I didn't accidentally stamp where I was going to want that little reinforcer. But there we go. Worked out okay. The next thing I'm going to do is take this piece and I'm going to glue it to the little scalloped circle. There we go. And I do like to use my liquid glue for this as well because you can see there's not a huge margin on this. And so it allows me to kind of scoot the paper around to make sure it's exactly where I want it. And now we're going to go ahead and put it on the card. I'm just going to use my dimensionals. You know, I like to pop up the stuff on my cards, so I use a lot of foam adhesive, whether I'm using my dimensionals or the foam adhesive sheets. I like that. I like adding some dimension to the cards. Okay, so I'm going to set this right about there, I think. And now I'm going to go ahead and put my elephant on. Just like so. No making fun of me for the bad job I did cutting him out. It's pretty sad. Okay, so I'm going to put it right about here, I think. And now we're going to glue on the little butterflies. And for this, you could use a little bit of liquid glue, or what I did is I just used my glue dots. Stampin' Up! Offers all sorts of different adhesives, and as you can see, I use them all. And it doesn't mean you have to have them all or have to buy them all. Most of the time, one adhesive is going to work just fine for you. But I like to have the different ones for different needs because I'm just weird that way. Okay, look at that. Our little black eye, our little elephant with his little beaten up black eye. Okay, so now this is look at this ribbon. This is in our catalog that is retiring at the end of the month, the January through April mini catalog. And you can see how it's got the ombre effect where it starts with the balmy blue and ends up white. And I love it. And it's a really soft ribbon. It's easy to work with, very lightweight, so it's not bulky. If you want some of this, you're going to want to make sure you get it before the end of the month because it will be going away. Okay, so all I did is I fed it through. I want it to be, you know, pretty much even on both sides, but we're going to trim it anyway, so it doesn't totally matter. Before we do the next step, I want to take my dimensionals and glue it into place. I'll show you why in just a minute. So I'm just putting a couple of dimensionals here. I'm not putting it all the way to the edge, and I'll show you why. The edge here is going to overlap our circle just a little bit, and the circle is already raised up with dimensionals. So I don't want to end up with it double at this end and higher than it is at this end. So just the one is fine. Okay, now the reason I glued it down before I did this little bow, last night I tried tying this bow without gluing it down, and it was pretty much impossible. So glue this down, and then we're just going to tie a little bow around it. And if this is laying funny while you're tying your bow, don't worry about it because you can fix it after you're done with the bow. So tie this around. Okay. And then I want to adjust my loops so that they are the size I want them to be. And I really just want a tiny little bow here. I don't need anything super big. I just ended up pulling that way too big when I made it. I think this is going to be okay like this. And see, if this was all bulky and I didn't like it, I could just pull those taut now, and they're fine. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my big scissors, just because my snips aren't super short, or super sharp, I mean. Oops, I wanted that a little more of an angle. There we go. There. And I do need to trim this guy, I think. There we go. That's laying sort of funny. So anyway, there's our card. What do you guys think? I'm going to trim this just a little bit more, I think. There we go. There. Card number 1 is done with our little elephant with the black eye. Okay, what do you guys think of that one? All right, let me move that over there. Let's put some stuff away so we can get started on card number 2. Clean up my mess. This next card is really, really simple, and I do like to give you guys some really simple cards now and then, because, you know, sometimes we're in a hurry, or sometimes we just don't feel like, you know, sometimes we feel more creative than others. Let's just put it that way. So this one, I'm using the Uniquely Artistic stamp set and the Biggest Wish. I love this Biggest Wish. It's so versatile. There's a lot you can do with the different fonts and things like that. So I definitely recommend getting that set. I use mine a lot. Okay, so the card we're going to make is right here. And the Designer Series paper, let me see, it's called Pretty Prints. And it is also retiring, of course. And it's just these gorgeous little prints. It's got 3 colors. It's got this purple, it's Blackberry Bliss. It's got kind of a teal color, and then it's got the Calypso Coral color. I really like it. It's so pretty. Okay, simple pimple card. Start with our envelope. Okay, so putting a little glue around the edge here. A little bit in the middle. Line up my edges at the top there. And smooth it out. And trim it down. Easy peasy. Okay. Okay. So our envelope is done. Now our card base is the standard card base of 8.5 by 5.5, scored in the middle at 4 1/4. So we're just going to fold that. And then I like to flatten it out with my bone folder so I have a nice sharp crease. set that aside for the moment. This is also a piece that's going to go on the front of the card. It just kind of, even though it's white on white, we're going to put some foam adhesive behind it, and it just offsets it a little bit, and I really like that. Okay, so now we're going to take this strip. Oh, by the way, this piece is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches, so it's got a 1/2 inch margin, and well, a 1/4 inch on every side. And we're just going to glue that on there. This piece is 5 inches by 1 3/4 inches. So let's go ahead and glue it on. I like to give just a little bit of that white edge on the side there. Try to make sure this is as straight as I can get it. There we go. And it is crooked, because that's what I do. So I'm just going to try to lift it up slowly so that I can even it out a little bit. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Okay. And I'm going to set it aside for the moment. I have a little strip of our Designer Series paper that is 5.5 inches long by 1/2 inch wide. We're going to put this on the inside of our card. I always like to put a little something on the inside, whether it's a strip of the Designer Series paper that matches the front of the card or a stamped image that matches, just a little something. Oops, let's see here. I want it to be straight, or as straight as I can get it. There we go. And now what we're going to do is put this lid on my glue before it dries. It actually probably wouldn't dry anyway, but okay, so now I have just, it's a scrap of white, and the stamps I'm going to use, I have, there's 2 pieces to this flower. Let me find all the pieces here. There is the detailed piece. You can see all the lines of the flower. I'll show you on the case. The detailed piece here, and then this is a background color. You'll see how that works here in a moment. And then I have leaves that are the same thing, where there's a background detail piece, and then a foreground detail piece, and then the background color. And then I also have our little hello stamp, which we're going to do probably one of the last things we'll do. So now I'm going to take my Blackberry Bliss ink. We're going to do a little stamping here, and I'm trying to remember, I think I decided that this, I can't remember if I decided it works better to do my background first. Some stamps it's easier if you do the background first and then you can line up the foreground with it, and some it's the other way around. And I can't remember what I decided on this one. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and just line this up. There we go. And it doesn't match exactly. It's not intended to. So if you don't get it to line up perfectly, don't worry about it. Not supposed to. Now I need to make a couple of leaves, a few leaves here. So let's try doing it the opposite way this time. Let's do the foreground stamp first. They look like coffee beans to me. Okay, and now we've got the background one. And I like this, you don't have to stamp it off to get that extra ink off to make it lighter. The way the stamp itself is designed, it stamps lighter for you anyway, so that's kind of nice. There we go. I'm going to close up my ink pad for the moment. I do too, Teresa. I love Blackberry Bliss. I think it's just such a rich color. I love it. Okay, so as you've heard me say before, when you are fussy cutting, which we're about to do, cut off the extra paper. The extra paper just gets in your way and makes it that much more frustrating to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go around these. We'll start with cutting out the flower first. And actually, you know, because this flower is kind of a wiggly edge, I don't know how else better to describe it, it cuts really fast because you don't need to have a really straight, exact line as you cut around it. Got a little close over there because the flower itself is a little wiggly, so it really makes it easy to do. Okay, let's see here. I think I have a couple areas I'm going to want to go back and trim just because I kind of got off to a rough start there. My neighbors are taking their dog out potty. They use the front yard, and Lucy sits there and barks at them until they acknowledge her and yell hello to her. Okay, so this edge is where it was just a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I've got that piece. Now let's go ahead and cut out our leaves. See how that went really quickly. Okay, so we'll do this one now. Remember, move your paper, not your scissors. Okay, that one it's kind of a little bit bigger of a halo than I like, so I'm just gonna, whoops, trim that down just a tiny bit. There we go. I like that better. Okay, now let's get this guy. Do. Your musical interlude. Do. Okay, and then oops, I don't like how big that little endeavor went right there. Oops, a little close on that side. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfectly the same everywhere. And that was something that actually I used to get really hung up on when it came to fussy cutting, because I was trying so hard to make it perfectly the same everywhere. Once I was able to let go of that, I started liking my fussy cutting a lot better. I was able to do it better. I was more comfortable with it. So that is something that if you can let go of that, that does help a lot. Okay, I'm still going to trim this down a little bit more, I think, because looking at the other ones are cut down quite a bit more. Okay. All right, now let's start piecing this baby together. We're going to go ahead and attach the leaves. Put a little bit of glue on the front side. And then, let's see, we'll put one set of leaves right there. Another one right about there. And then another one right there. There. Okay. Now, let's put a few dimensionals on there. Are you surprised to hear that? Hey, Kay, welcome. And then this one is just kind of odd the way it lays out, so it probably has way more dimensionals than what it needs. When you see me totally out of the frame doing this, I have a little garbage can over here that I'm throwing my backs into. Okay, on this piece. So let's see. let's put this right about here, I think. Now we're going to take our hello stamp, get the ink pad open again. And we're just going to put it right here under the flower. And for this now, I'm going to use a half of one of my little foam adhesive sheets because for the bigger pieces like this white piece, I do like to use these. I'm cutting it in strips like this because I can cover more space this way, because it doesn't have to be, see, if they were still together, it would only cover about that much, which I think would still be okay. But by cutting it up, I can spread them out a little bit to make sure I've got good coverage so that my card doesn't sag anywhere. Oop. Okay. And now we're just going to put this on the card, try to make sure that our margins are relatively the same. Remember, with the foam adhesive sheets, it's pretty unforgiving. So you want to make sure you've got this where you want it, but still just lay it down gently so that if you do need to lift it back up, it's a little easier. Now this little edge is coming up from where I peeled it up when it was crooked. So I'm just going to take a dot of my liquid glue and put it under there. Just a tiny little dot. Hold it down for a minute so that it gets tacky. There we go. That'll hold that little corner down. And now we have, oops, we do not have card number 2 quite yet. We need some rhinestones, right? We need some bling. So I'm going to take my Take Your Pick tool. And I'm just going to put a few on here. Let's see. Got us a few little sparklies on there. And now card number 2 is done. That was quick and easy, right, guys? So card number 2 is done. Let's go ahead and clean up this mess now, and we can get started on card number 3. Card number 3 is a fun fold. Lots of moving parts on this one, but it's still easy to do. We're using the Friendly Gnomes and the Coordinating Gnomes dies. And then I'm also using Lovely and Lasting. This is the perfect example of what I was talking about earlier. I just wanted a little flower for the card. And so I just looked through all my stamps till I found one that had a flower about the size of what I was looking for. So again, it's not like you need this exact stamp set. Any tiny flower would work. Then I also have my framed florets dies. So let's set these aside. I'll show you the card. This paper is the, let me see what it's called again. Country Floral Lane. I love this paper. I'm so sad to see it retiring. It's in our January through April mini catalog, and it's just some really fun colors and print. I like it a lot. Okay, so here we have our cute little gnome girl. There's no one better than you. And a tie, right? A little bow. So we're going to untie our bow. It's a gatefold. But wait, now it opens that way. So it's kind of a trifold sort of thing. And then you tie it back up. And there you go. So let's get started, shall we? As per the norm, we're going to get started with our envelope. Got our strip there. The envelope seemed to stay in the bag that time. Let's go ahead and get this piece done. Okay. Ooh, another little musical interlude for you. You're getting your money's worth tonight, right? Okay, line up the top. Okay, let's trim off that extra. Now for this card, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but for this card, you want to make sure that you pick a DSP, that you like both sides. And not only do you like both sides, but they coordinate together well. Most of our designer series papers, the back and the front, do coordinate. But some, they're different enough that you may not want to use them, you know, on the same card. It's totally up to you, but that is something with this particular card. You want to make sure that you like both sides. So, someone's got a fire going. Like my neighbors have a fire pit. I wonder if they're out with their fire pit. I love that smell. Okay. This one we're doing a little bit different fold. This one, rather than doing the standard, I cut my paper vertically. So it's still a half of a sheet, but instead of being 8.5 by 5.5, it's 11 by 4.25. And then I've scored it at 5.5. Okay. So let's go ahead and fold it and get that sharp crease on it. And first things first, I'm going to take this piece. This is another piece out of the packet. Let me show you. This is going to be our main piece of the card, and we're going to use it in a minute. This is another piece out of that same pack that I just thought coordinated well. So let's go ahead and we're going to glue this to the front of my, this is mint macaron, by the way. And I'm going to glue that to the front of my mint macaron piece. This piece is 5.25 by 4. And I just put it on there. You could stamp more on there if you choose to. I chose to just leave the paper. Then I've got this piece for the inside of my card. It is, this one is smaller. It is 3 7/8. Maybe it's, let me see what size I did. This is 3 3/4 by 5. So I cut off, I made it a 1/2 inch smaller than the card base is. And let me show you why. It's going to actually go on here, the inside of the card, and I wanted to make sure that where my creases are and where it folds, it'll fit. And we'll put that together in a minute. But for the moment, let's go ahead and just take this tiny little strip. This coordinates with this right here. And we're going to glue it onto that white piece. I hear sirens, which is not uncommon in this neighborhood. However, I'm hoping it's not associated with that smoke I'm smelling. I'm really hoping that smoke is just somebody with their fire pit. Okay. Okay. So, there we go. I'm going to set this aside for the moment. Now, this piece is, I think 7.5. No, it's 8.5. It's 8 3/4. I'm a liar. Okay, let's start over. This is 8 5/8. And the reason I did 5/8 instead of 8.5 is because I wanted to add just a little bit of extra for where we have our creases, because it's going to fold around the paper and other paper, and I still wanted it to meet in the front. So it's 8.5 by 5.5. I'm sorry, 8 5/8 by 5.5. Okay, 8 5/8 by 5.5. And then what we're going to do is I did score it at 2 and, yeah, I scored it at 2 1/8. Okay, we're going to fold this just like so. Get a nice sharp edge there. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to have it just meet in the middle, just like that. This is a tip you've seen me do before, where I say, instead of scoring both lines, both sides, score one side, and then fold the other one regular to meet in the middle. That way, if your measurements are just slightly off or whatever, it still meets where it should. Okay, now what we're going to do is take this piece that we just made, and we're going to line it up right in the center of this section, right? Okay. Oops. Got too many good things going on here. So let's go ahead and find the pieces we need. Okay. Line this up. Just like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some more adhesive and we're going to put it along the back of this. We're going to open this and we're going to go like this. We're going to line it up. It is not going, I lied, this is not 5.5, it's 5 1/4, I'm sorry. And we're going to line it up so that it has about of 1/8 of an inch margin on each side. Now what might be easier, let's try this. If I go like this and I'm lining it up so that my flaps here cover up the inside piece, right? Now if I close it, it's going to be right where I need it to be on the inside, okay? Doo-doo-doo. My edges are a little bit not quite where I want them. They'll get there. It'll be fine. All you got to do is get your crease just a little. It's off by such a minuscule amount that by making my crease just a little bit sharper, it pulls the paper just a little bit. And now it matches up. See? Okay. Now we're ready to work on the uh-oh, hang on, I think I did something. I did something. Oh man, I always do this. Okay, we've got let's fix this. We've got our trim. This is Baker's Twine in Garden Green. It came from a 3-pack that I believe is on the clearance rack, actually. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift this back up just a little bit because I want it to be under here. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. Chances are my adhesive is good enough that that's going to hold it in place, but just to be on the safe side, I'm taking a little bit of my tear and tape and I am going to tape it down. See what I'm doing there? Just a little bit of tear and tape. It holds my ribbon or my twine where I want it. There we go, all better. So that we'll be able to bring this around and tie it when we're ready to. But we're not ready to quite yet. Got a few pieces here. From the framed florets, I cut out this little frame in mint macaron. And then this is the center of the frame actually. So I cut two. I cut a white one and a mint macaron one so that I could put white in the center. And what we're going to do, hang on, let me move this out of the way. We're going to take our pale papaya ink and this cute little flower that I got out of the, let me find it here, Lovely and Lasting stamp set. It's this little flower right there. And I'm just kind of stamping it at random all over. I think this ink pad needs to be inked up a little bit, except actually this color is going to be retiring at the end of the month. Every year we bring out 5 new in colors, and we have 2 sets of in colors, and they are on a rotating basis, and they come around for 2 years and then they retire. So this is part of the 5 that's retiring. But then in addition to that, we're doing a color refresh this year. So a lot of the colors out of our main line, about 10 or so out of our main line, are retiring so that they can bring back some old favorites and bring out some new colors as well. So that's kind of exciting. Okay, so now I have these two pieces right here. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue on my frame, on the back of my frame, but I'm only going to put it on half of the frame, because remember, if you put it on the whole thing and then you lay it down on the front of that card, it's going to glue your card shut. And I keep getting glue, or getting my fingers right in the glue. Okay. So I'm going to lay these together and then put this right about the center of my card. Play with it a little, get it exactly where I want it, make sure it's straight, you know, all that good stuff. Yeah, that looks good, right? Uh-oh. Well, that was Lucy, it's fine. I'm sure they will greet you. Keep wiggling this like, I don't know. It doesn't look like it's quite straight. But I suppose I could fiddle with it all night, right? Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue in this open spot. And I'm just going to lay this piece right in there, nest it right into that frame. There we go. Oops. Lucy. Okay. Uh-oh. There we go. Okay. Now I'm going to take my twine. I'm going to go ahead and tie my bow now. This could be a problem. I need to lift this up again if it will let me, because I need to give myself a little bit more on this other side. Okay. I still don't like how uneven. It's pretty uneven. That's my problem. Okay, hang on. We're gonna fix this. Get another little piece of tear and tape. Suppose what I could do is figure out about where I want it now. Okay, I think that's going to be better. And now, oh, Lucy, honey. That's a very high-pitched bark. I'm not wild about it. Okay, there we go. It's all good now. So now we're going to go ahead and tie the bow. And I'm going to tie it kind of off to the side, not the center. Right about there. And by the way, I'm sure you see this, but in case you didn't notice, I used 2 strands. I liked the weight of having 2. Since it was supposed to be holding the card shut, I thought that one just looked a little too flimsy. It wasn't too flimsy, it just looked flimsy. So I opted to use 2 strands. Okay, and we can trim these. I don't want to trim them too much because I did like the long tails, but I didn't want them going off the edge of the card. Okay, now I'm going to do a little stamping, put our stamped images on here, and we're good to go. Okay, so the first thing, I've got my gnome, and then I also have my sentiment. I'm going to do the sentiment with the base, with the black Memento ink. Oops, my stamp just came off my block. Okay, and then I'm going to use the black Memento ink also to stamp my gnome. I'm going to color her pretty quickly. We're getting short on time, and I don't want to make you stay here with me all night, though I'd be happy to keep you. Okay, let's see. We need a lot of colors here. Some of these are just colors from before. So let's see, we're going to start with her hair. And for this, I took my it's the dark So Saffron, and I just colored her little braids. Okay. And then we're going to take the the dark Daffodil Delight. And this is where I'm doing these little shade marks. So she looks like she has highlights in her beautiful hair. Oops. Okay. And then I'm going to take, I have several colors here that I used to try to do that flower. I wanted the flower, see how there's a couple different shades of the flowers there? And I just wanted that flower to be a little darker than her hat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by shading the hat. I've got my dark petal pink here. I've also got the light petal pink. And then, oh, this one is the 900. This is for her, her face, her skin. So we're going to start with the dark right here and just kind of go along the edge of the hat. Okay, and then I'm going to color in a little bit more on this side, just to give it some shading. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and color the flower too. And you'll see why in a minute. Then I'm going to take my light petal, or I'm sorry, this is pale papaya. So I'm using pale papaya and, yeah, these are pale papaya. I said petal pink earlier, but they're pale papaya. And now I'm going to go ahead and color this in. Get those edges really good so that they blend. Okay, then I'm going over the flower again. I'm basically just layering color here. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow to it, a little bit of pink. That's what's going to make it be a little bit different color so that it stands out. I do want to go over those shade lines a little bit, but I want to let my color soak in a little first. So let's add just a little bit of pink. Again, I'm doing this just because I'm trying to create a darker flower. I'm not necessarily trying to create a particular color, just a darker flower. Now I'm taking my Daffodil Delight, going over it. See, slowly but surely, we're getting a darker flower. I'm going to let it sit for a little bit while we do the rest of her. I'm using my 900 from our Naturals to do her face, but first I want to take my light Flirty Flamingo and I want to give her just a little bit of red on her nose, and I want to give her little red cheeks. And now I'm going to do this, and I'm blending those edges. Okay. And then for her jacket, I wanted her jacket to be the mint macaron. So I've got my light and my dark. So I'm going to start with my dark and go around, just around the edges there. And then I'm going to take the light to fill it in the rest of the way, making sure to blend those lines. Okay. And then for her gloves, I forgot, I want her gloves to be mint macaron as well. And because I did want just a little more shading, I'm also going to introduce my light soft succulent just along the edge, the very edges. Take my light mint macaron again, just to go over it. I think I want the other tip, but let's see how this works for me. Sometimes with the smaller pieces like this, the brush tip is just a little too unwieldy. Okay, next we're going to take our, where is it? There we go. My pale papaya. Is this the pale papaya? Yep. So we're going to take the dark pale papaya, and I'm doing the little things around her wrist, I'm doing her little Peter Pan collar, and I'm doing the bottom of her shirt. Then we're going to take, I've got light and dark crumb cake. The dark crumb cake, I'm going around the edge of her shoes, and the little buttons or snaps or whatever they are. Now I'm going to take the light. Want it to blend a little bit. Now I'm going to go back to that flower again because I still want to try to make it just a tiny bit darker because I do want it to stand out a little. Maybe we'll add just a little bit more pink to it. There we go. See, so I think it's standing out pretty nicely. Now I'm going to take my embossing tool. I'm sorry, my cutting and embossing machine. Okay. Oops. I didn't mean to grab that one. Okay. And my little gnome girl is, I have to remember which one. I think this is her. We're going to tape her on there so she stays put. Okay. Okay. We're going to feed her through. Sorry for the wiggly jiggly. Look at her, isn't she adorable? Okay, now let me put the dye away so that I don't lose it. Okay, and now we're going to put a few dimensionals on her. I also want to put a little tiny champagne rhinestone on that flower that we worked so hard to make it darker. Right there in the center. Okay, and I'm leaving the center of her without any dimensionals because that's where the baker's twine is going to run through. So we're going to put it right about here. And then last step, we're going to take our little snips and we're going to fussy cut around the words. Little tip I'll give you is, can you see how I'm like being wiggly about it? Kind of, I'm not trying to do a straight line. If you do that, it ends up looking smoother, and it doesn't matter that it's not a straight line. And that is something that I found helped me to like my outcome just a little bit better. It looked a little more natural. And it's just little wiggles that I'm doing. So you see the little wiggles, but it doesn't look like I was trying to do a straight line and couldn't get it straight, right? Oops. Also, if it's a little further from the letters on one end of the word than it is on the other, it doesn't necessarily look as weird. So those little wigglies do help. And I use that same technique, that wiggly thing that I was just talking about, on other stamped images, not just words. But it really is helpful on words. See, there we go. And now we're going to I'm going to use my mini dimensionals for this, just because it's so narrow right there. My mini dimensionals, I find it's easier if I use my take your pick tool. So we're going to put one right there. One right there. And then put a few in here. Okay, let's tear off the edge or the backings. We're running a little late tonight, guys. I'm really sorry. Get these backs off. Okay, and so now I'm just going to stick it on here, just like that. And our card is done. Ta-da! So that's card number 3. Let's put our stuff away, then we'll just kind of recap what we did tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the cards that we made. If you liked what you saw, I'd love it if you'd give me some hearts or thumbs up or any of that. Oh good, Teresa liked that tip of the wiggling. Hearts and thumbs up are, well, first of all, they stroke my ego, and let's face it, everybody likes to have their ego stroked. But also, it tells the algorithm, oh, people are liking this. Perhaps other people would like it too, and it helps get me in the algorithm to put my video out there for people. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, make sure that you subscribe to my page. I think it's called follow. You can like the page and you can follow the page. If you follow, then there's a greater chance I'll show up in your feed so you know when I'm doing stuff. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and click on that little bell icon. That way you will get notifications whenever I upload new things. And I always upload this video as soon as we're done, so that those of you who don't have Facebook can still see the video in a pretty timely fashion. Okay, so cleaning up here. So we've got our gnome card that we just made. Be thinking about which one's your favorite so you can tell me which one is. Also, if you wanted to purchase any of the supplies we used tonight, or want to take a look at the items that are going out of stock, or out of that they're retiring, so that you can get them before they're gone, I would love to earn your business. As I said earlier, you can order at heathersides.stampinup.net. If you have any questions, concerns, suggestions, anything, contact me at stamphappenings@gmail.com or send me a message here on Facebook. And if you place an order, if your order is under $150, please use this host code. It helps me to continue to provide the videos for free, prizes, things like that. But if your order is over $150, please don't use the host code. You will have some free rewards coming to you from Stampin' Up! I want to make sure that you're the one who gets them. So here's our 3 cards. What do you think is your favorite tonight? I kind of like them all for different reasons. So I hope you enjoyed what we did tonight. I always do. This is my favorite time of the week. I will be back next Wednesday, same time, same place here at facebook.com/stamphappenings at 6 p.m. Pacific time. Hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.